killed him already. I was trying to push him into the gas cloud, but it didn't work.
This day, what shall become law? Yes, this day it is so.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. And, I've just been thinking a lot about the first 2 years that I was in school. And there's like, there was this thing that we called the October Rule. And it was about relationships. And you're kind of put in a tough position when you have a birthday during the fall months, particularly October, November, and you go into the new year with a sort of naive optimism, because in reality, you're just leaving your parents' house and you're now in the situation where you don't have to really follow anybody else's rules except the ones that have been instilled in you. And so the October Rule is about relationships that start before the first 2 months of school are over. And what it states is that in that event, in the event that you do get into a relationship during that time, late August, September, early October, you kind of put yourself in a tight spot because you maybe have a birthday, or your significant other has a birthday during that fall time, and then you have the time where the parents come back to campus, mid-semester break, Thanksgiving, Christmas, winter break, New Year's, Valentine's Day, all in a row. That's like, it's pretty much like having a Monopoly game where the entire left side of the board is Park Place and Boardwalk, and it's just full of hotels, and all the railroads are bought up. And you're gonna have to roll perfectly in order to get through everything without having to pay. And that's why, Dui Zhang's talked about relationships and how I feel like most of our red pill relationships only last about 2 years at most, 2 to 5 years tops. I would say it tops out there. But that's because after the first year, you might have shelled out some money, who knows, but the second year you always feel terrible because you just you can't pay for all of that stuff. All of those gifts, all the presents, all of the dates, all of the time spent indoors. It's also called cuffing season. The winter months in the Midwest are especially cold, and so people get, whether it's by their own admission or not, they get into a relationship so they can cuddle up or maybe sit individually in their own snuggies and watch Netflix and Amazon Prime Video now, especially in HBO Go and whatever. But it's a tough time to be able to, be in a relationship, and especially if you're not established or you don't have your head on straight, you're definitely going to get into some trouble. And hopefully if you're in college by now, you have the value structure where it's not going to get you in a ton of trouble. You just will have a relationship that didn't work out. But this is the time where a lot of people lose their life, or they live their lifestyle in a way that puts them into the system and doesn't get them out of it. And that's not good, because the more you play into the system and the more the system fades into oblivion, the more you find yourself rolling dice on a blank board, and it's only a matter of time before you look around you and all the players are gone and you're in a box. And so, because see, when you're going to college, you shouldn't be looking for any relationship, but that's how it is. I mean, at my college we had a strong marriage culture, and a lot of the people that we talked to, inevitably people kind of pressured to get into a relationship, and I saw a lot of couples form actually on the back end of my matriculation. And this was because, well, for whatever reason, people feel like they need to happy wife, happy life, even though they just spent 4 years getting an education and not, they spent 4 years learning about a skill set that's going to benefit them, and they feel like it's necessary to immediately hitch up with someone else. Because why? Well, maybe this skill set is something that they don't feel is going to take them far enough, and they need somebody to sort of fall back on, like a cushion maybe, to be there for them and support them, when in reality what they need to do is just open their wings and fly out alone and try to get this money situation and the career situation figured out before they start looking at serious relationship. And yeah, it's going to sound silly if you come from a Judeo-Christian background, or traditionally a traditional focused background. You're going to be like, oh no, that's obviously wrong. My parents were together 40 years, and so, I feel like I can do the same. It's not that hard. You just have to be good at communicating or whatnot. But this is not true. This is not true at all. We have to understand that communication alone is not going to solve the issues that we're facing as a collective group. it's like saying, if only we could communicate to Hitler, if only there was a proper line of communication, then we would be able to understand him or understand a serial killer. If only there was communication. And that's just not true. The monster, like, sometimes when you face a monster, you have to shoot first and ask questions later. And in this situation, we don't have we don't have any way to properly communicate our disenfranchisement, because all of our channels are being taken away. All of our spaces are being eradicated. And eventually they're going to start coming for little channels like mine. Because any channel that you'll be that for a man to express himself that isn't high pitched or e-boy-ish, where I'm like wearing a jacket with just like a chain and underneath no shirt, and I'm styling up a Tesla with like an ink pen or something, or doing just something just absolutely absurd, or I'm saying something outrageous, or I'm throwing iPads into big toy pools of Coke. Anything that isn't just blatantly absurd and heartfelt is going to be stamped out. Because why? See, because most people nowadays, men and women who are weak, they don't have the ability to just sit and contemplate and just be silent and be critical of their own life. Because, we've made so many mistakes that to sit in silence would just, it would terrorize us. And it's a lack of energy. It's energy displaced, and it's put into a box and sealed fragile and never opened up, and just shoved into the back of the attic, or shoved into the attic along with everything else that we think about on a daily, and that we repress. And so what are we to do with all this surplus value that we find ourselves having, but share it? And this instant gratification system that we have now just funnels more and more repressed material into the back of the mind. And so we just keep hitting the dopamine rush of going out, socializing, sharing more and more of ourselves online. All for what, Our ego is just it's just gotten too big to manage. It's almost like we need like a stimulus package for our ego. Because when you bankrupt yourself morally, and you put all of your investments into your ego, then you got to go full force. There's no turning back. You put on a face, and that's the face that you have for the rest of your life. There's no transformation in your future. And if it is a transformation, it usually involves you getting pulled deeper and deeper into the system until you have nothing left. You're rolling dice on a blank board, and the only player is you. And so men are picking up their wallet and walking away from the table. Even if it's Monopoly money, I'd rather keep my money than invest it on this board that is filled with just degeneracy. There's no business that I can see starting for myself here. There have to be somewhere overseas. You know, when I was really into being a musician, I actually wanted to go overseas and play because I thought that my music would probably be more well received there. And I like the European audience as well. They're very respectful, very quiet. No one's really on their phone or anything when when you're playing, but that's just like anecdotal. But my overall point with that is here in the States, the price of the price of attention is way too high. And TV companies are starting to fail at being able to capture people's attention. It's moving more towards like internet sources. People are moving more towards internet sources for entertainment. So that's people being removed from that part of that industry. Then you have people being removed from service industries like transportation, hospitality. AI is basically sweeping through those industries at an alarming rate. Soon you'll just have AI robots playing concertos and jazz music and fugues and everything will just be automated. You can already see this with like sort of like the Amazon radio stations. You know, if you just tell them to play the top listed songs, sort of like the timbre of songs all fit this sort of like droning, um, just it's like droning upbeat music that just kind of plays in the background, and we just all everybody uh, can easily ignore it and just pay attention to like the catchiness, and it just takes all of the I never even think about who sings a song anymore. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I feel like I feel like people still do, but I also think that there's less and less a passionate music intelligentsia that does not exist offline. Because I during my college days, I actually used to follow a lot of music review channels, and I would also be on Reddit researching. I'd be on subreddit pages trying to like find new music and listen to it and whatever. And now I don't really do any of that stuff. I spend less time on I have less time. Uh, I spend almost zero time in front of a computer. The only time that I'm ever online is when I'm playing a game or when I'm on YouTube watching videos, and I try to watch like a lot of different stuff, like for working out, philosophy, entertainment, news. That's basically what I do. YouTube is my only form of social media that I use. And so like what do we have outside of the internet that's filled with people where we can make connections? If we take the human element out of music and we take it out of the service industry, what do we have left to give to a person? What what other occupation do we have to give to a person who desperately needs it?
Let's try something new.
All pithy and preaching, kind of in the same vein as the last one I sent out to you guys about remaining relevant. As I'm sure that poked some eyes there on some guys and probably inspired some others. But look, it's reality. We live in a world of dynamic change. Things are changing. The proper posture is not being a stick in the mud, but being an adventurer in this climate. And as much as anybody wants to complain about that, that is the reality that we face. And if we don't embrace it, you know, I don't know what else to tell you. It's just part of playing the game. It's interesting to me the disconnect that I often find in many of my peers, especially the younger guys.
Okay. That's probably going to be it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.